Hello, I'm Carter, and welcome to my Reliquary Duels pregame deck tech, the show where we talk about the decks we'll be playing on stream. Right now, I'll be covering my commander, Kalamax the Stormsire. If you don't remember him from the Commander 2020 precons, he is a elemental dinosaur that costs one generic, a green, a blue, and a red, and has the text, whenever you cast your first instant spell each turn, if Kalamax the Stormsire is tapped, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copies, and whenever you copy a spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on Kalamax. Now I've got to start this deck tech off somewhere, so let's jump right into our first category, Rampage. Now, every commander deck needs a little bit of ramp, and this one specifically is going to be looking for instant speed spells we can copy with Kalamax. So first we're going to be grabbing Roiling Regrowth and Harrow, which both make us sack a land to get 2, and Natural Connection, which searches for 1 land without the sacrifice requirement. In addition, we're going to be grabbing Eureka Moment and Growth Spiral, which both let us put lands from our hands into play, and draw cards, because who doesn't like drawing cards? And while they aren't traditional ramp spells, Pyretic Ritual, Desperate Ritual, and Manamorphose can all be copied by Kalamax for a quick burst of mana. And while we can't copy this one with Kalamax, Ironcrag Feat can grant us a quick 7 red mana while limiting us to 1 more spell in a turn. Although we do want a lot of spells to copy, some things can just provide too many additional benefits or are just too efficient, which is why we're running Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, and Thought Vessel as our mana rocks, while Lotus Petal is just a free 1 mana. Jaya Ballard is a planeswalker which can get us 3 mana every turn and also provide a valuable looting ability. And Nyxbloom Ancient, my friend, provides us 3 times the mana from all of our permanents. Not to mention our copy of Cryptolith Rite, which can let us tap Kalamax for mana, so we can copy spells without sending him into danger. Now that we've covered how we're getting extra mana this game, let's move on to our second category, Copy That. This category focuses on the spells we use to duplicate our other ones to double up their value. Teach by Example and the Cooperate half of Refuse/Cooperate are each instance which can help us copy other instants and sorceries, while Increasing Vengeance can do the same, but twice as good when cast from the graveyard. Narset's Reversal is yet another instant which copies spells, but this one also returns the original to its owner's hand. Wart the Raid Mother is a legendary goblin that creates 2 other goblins on ETB. And if that wasn't enough, it grants all of our red and green spells Conspire for further copying shenanigans. Krark the Thumbless is yet another goblin that lets us copy our spells, but this time he makes us flip coins to see if it'll copy or bounce back to our hand. And while it's unfortunate that Melik Izzet Paragon isn't a goblin, he allows us to cast instant and sorcery spells from the top of our library, while also copying them when we do so. The last creature I have that can copy our spells is a wizard named Dualcaster Mage, who's a walking, talking Reverberate that also acts as a chump blocker. And since I want almost every permanent type copying spells in my name, we've got Rouse Storm Conduit, who chips in damage while also copying our spells. We've got Thousand Year Storm, which duplicates all of our instants and sorcery spells for each other one we've cast this turn. And last but not least, I've got Twinning Staff, which actually duplicates all of our instances of duplication. Now that I've said the word copy at least 40,000 times, let's move on to Category 3, Synergize. This category will focus on the effects that better improve the cards we play and how we play them. Starting off, we have the Sword of Feast and Famine and Wilderness Reclamation, which both untap all our lands on each of our turns, allowing us to cast more on our opponents. Past in Flames and Underworld Breach can let us cast spells out of our graveyard, and since almost every card in our deck only will affect the board once, this is a great way to repeat value. Opt, Brainstorm, and Deliberate are all cantrips that gain us extra cards whenever we copy them. Not to mention Frantic Search loots us 2 and untaps 3 lands, so if we copy it, we get to pay 3 to untap 6 lands. Valakut Awakening can let us filter a new hand off the top of our library if we don't like the one we have, and can step in as a land if we need it. Not to mention, we're running Dig Through Time, which lets us dig 7 cards deep, take 2 off the top, can be copied by Kalamax, and will only cost us 2 mana! Even though they aren't instants, Rhystic Study and Mystic Remora can be such powerful card draw engines when opponents don't pay their tax that there is no reason why they shouldn't be run in the deck. And Mystical Tutor can search our entire library for any instant or sorcery card and put it on the top of our deck. Why rely on top decking when I can literally stack it? After that, there is Rushme Eternity's Crafter, who whenever we cast a spell on our opponent's turn, for the first time, will either cast us a free card or put one into our hand. I am, frankly, fine with either. The final card for this category is Archmage Emeritus, who is a 4 mana value creature with a casting cost of 2 generic and 2 blue, and has the very simple Magecraft ability of, whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, draw a card. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the dream. That is an unending fuel supply for any number of burn spells we can cast. And even though we plan to win with a big fireball, that is what will truly win us the game. An unending avalanche of card advantage. Moving on to the next category, it encapsulates everything that I loved doing the most when I started to play Magic the Gathering. This next category is called Control It All. While we enact our game plan, we need to do everything in our power to protect it, while also disrupting our opponents. So what better thing to start off with than some counterspells? They do both! On the higher mana value side of the spectrum, we're running Cryptic Command, Sublime Epiphany, and Spell Swindle, each a counterspell that can provide additional value and disruption. Counterspell and Swan Song are also both cheap counterspells, while the Swan Song also granted your opponent a 2/2 bird, so you can literally and figuratively flip them the bird across the table. Finally, for the protection side of things, we're running Snakeskin Veil, which grants a creature a +1/+1 counter and hexproof. Moving on to the removal side of things, we've got Lightning Bolt, Electrolyze, and Rapid Hybridization. All removal spells for quick threat removal. Following up, we've got Nature's Claim, Artifact Mutation, and Ancient Grudge, all good ways to deal with troublesome artifacts and enchantments, with the mutation granting 1/1 Saprolings, and the Ancient Grudge being able to cast from our graveyard for a single green mana. Finally, in this category, we have our board wipes, and we're not settling for anything less than the best. Cyclonic Rift and Blasphemous Act can all clear the entire board when we need it, not to mention probably leave Kalamax standing depending on how big he is. Not to mention we can use Arcbon not just as a board wipe, but also to lower the entire table's HP. Now that we've covered all of our early game plays and value pieces, let's move on to some of our more flashy late-game items that will help us destroy and incinerate our opponents. Let's move on to Category 5, Light 'em Up. In this category, we will be talking about the big burn spells we'll use to smite our foes with immeasurable fire. Starting with you, Martin, always starting with you. This is Commander. No Kitchen Finks combo can save you here. I may have gotten a little vengeful and off topic there, so let's return to Category 5, starting with Comet Storm and Ravaging Blaze. These both are massive X spells that can dish out massive amounts of damage to our opponents and their creatures. Following that up, we have Electro Dominance, which can dish out the same kind of punishment while also allowing us to cast additional spells. Expansion Explosion, you guessed it, big old damage, but also another upside. Lets us draw cards and can also be used as a protective copy spell. No X cost required here. Urza's Rage, when kicked, can deal 10 damage to anything with a face. Not to mention Soulsfire only costs 3 mana, and if we've built up a large Kalamax, can dish out a ton of damage to devastating effect. And if in the end our Storm of Fire and Lightning isn't enough, we can add two things that are guaranteed to make anything far more frightening. Sharks and more goblins! Shark Typhoon is a lovely enchantment that just spits out flying sharks that can eviscerate our foes with their gnashing teeth whenever we cast a non-creature spell. And if we get a good old gutter snipe down early enough, he can just ping away at their health bars with his little slingshot, making our X spells require a little less mana to burn them all down. Now that our 99 is almost complete, let's move on to our final category. Category 6. Lands!
Starting with some fixing, we're going to be running copies of Command Tower
Exotic Orchard, Path of Ancestry, Gruul Turf, Izzet Boilerworks, Mossfire Valley, Cinderglade, Frostboiled Snarl, Shivan Reef, Ash Barrens, Evolving Wilds, and Terramorphic Expanse. We're also running a couple of utility lands in the form of Magosi the Watervale, Tectonic Edge, and the Reliquary Tower. Magosi the Watervale can provide us some time manipulation shenanigans, which we gave a much more in-depth talking to in a past video. Tectonic Edge can provide some quick land destruction to deal with an opponent's problematic utility land. And the almighty Reliquary Tower can give us no maximum hand size, which frankly is just always nice. And like almost every structure, we have a good foundation here of basic lands. We're running 6 forests, 6 mountains, and 5 islands, and while this might be a slight higher amount that you might see in some decks with perfect mana bases, we want to make sure we have enough to keep on pulling lands out with our ramp spells when they're duplicated. And that concludes this deck tech. I hope you enjoyed. To see this deck in action, tune in to the second episode of Reliquary Duels, streamed on May 30th, 2021 at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, tune in tomorrow to catch the next Reliquary Duels deck tech, or check out yesterday's video in the iCard above. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, as well as leave a comment on this video on what you think you should have run in this deck and think I'm a big dum-dum for not including. I've been Carter of the Reliquary Tower. Thank you for watching.